looking at technology that's maybe hundreds and hundreds of years ahead of us. It's not that phenomenal. It really isn't. A lot of people, talk about it being even billions of years, and it really isn't. This technology is not that far-fetched once you get your hands around it. So it is quite feasible that we could eventually duplicate these systems, but not with materials that we have readily available right now. There'd have to be another source for these materials.
I asked this of John earlier, and it's another one you couldn't quite answer, that came up with a good answer nevertheless. I heard an astrologer who said that the sun, over the last 2 months, Bob, has lost roughly 1/10 of 1% of its output. Now, while I guess the output of the sun, which is a nuclear dynamo, does vacillate a little bit, this seemed to that person somewhat worrisome. Any comments on that?
I wouldn't be really concerned. I mean, the sun has a tremendous hydrogen supply, which is being, fusion reaction is being converted to helium, and you don't really have to be concerned about anything running out for probably about 5 billion years, and then at that point there'll be some pretty dramatic changes.
There's no real problem that could develop in it causing enough of a drop to affect us ecologically.
As a matter of fact, when the sun begins to run out of fuel, it's going to swell. So it's not going to burn out like a candle.
All right, indulge just a couple calls here. We are a talk show. Wildcard line 3, we're on the coast-to-coast end with Art Bell, John Lear, and Bob Lazar.
I'm doing good.
Where are you calling from, sir?
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, all right.
All right. What I wanted to ask about the saucers and the alien technology was they must operate off from some type of communication frequency. Is it any way possible to put together some sort of a transmitter so that one could start putting out a signal to them?
All right, that's a good question. Bob, any insights into whatever communications capabilities they have?
Well, what bothers me with the communication, and of course there must be some in the craft, is that because of the gravitational field, everything is going to be distorted around the craft, whether it's radio waves, whether it's light waves. And in fact, someone had asked earlier how craft, I think they asked how craft seemingly disappears or underneath it. Well, this again is characteristic of the gravity amplifier, that it actually pulls light around it. For instance, I even mentioned in my tape that there are stars that are behind the sun, where the sun actually blocks our view, and we can see those stars. The reason why is the sun has a tremendous amount of gravity, pulls the light from the star up and around the sun so we can see it. In these disks, when they're operating, if they're in something called an Omicron configuration, if you're standing underneath the disk, you can't see it. You can only see the sky above it by the way light is bent around the craft. Now, the way I understand this to envelop the craft, I can't see how radio waves can get into the craft. And that's something that's puzzled me for a while. So there must be some other form of communication.
Would the gravity amplifiers themselves possibly provide the key to the kind of communication they use? In other words, something propelled or moved through time or space or both with the same technology. In other words, each new technology, lasers, for example, can be modulated, and you can use light to pass voice. And so I wonder if their technology might have in it a key to their communications.
It's quite possible. There is something called, along the lines of a gravity phone, something that John and I have spoke about in depth, that essentially is a gravity amplifier with a modulated output, and it is received. Again, this is just an educated guess, but it's certainly possible. But as far as there being a frequency you can tune in or transmit, I haven't seen anything along those lines that the craft would receive.
So then the communications might be every bit as advanced or different, would be a better way to put it, than anything we're familiar with, traditional RF frequencies and so forth.
Probably, because they're traveling such tremendous distances, the craft would get there years before their transmission did. So they can't use regular radio transmission. They have to use something that actually bends time and space.
Yeah, one would think that any insight into that at all might give one the ability eventually then to communicate, if not travel to these creatures, that communicate with the point of origin.
Right, I agree.
Wildcard Line 3, you're on the Coast to Coast AM with the group. Hello, are you there? Yeah. Yes, sir. Turn your radio off, number one. Okay. I've been trying to get through you for a long time. Where are you calling from? I'm calling in from Las Vegas. All right. Go ahead. The first question is, this is directed to John Lear. Do the aliens have philosophy about their own creator or creation? Number two, the supercluster that is to be built in Texas, is that going to give any clues to their technological advances? All right, well, there's a question for each one of us. What are they really to philosophy? And I'd like to hear Bob's answer on that supercollider. I've heard many people say, they're building that to make 115, and I never asked Bob about it. Element 115. Bob, what can you tell us about the supercollider?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know a whole lot about the super collider. I do know the basic plan and what they're attempting to do. Is it going to be used to make 115? No. Again, if you're going to assemble an incredibly heavy element like that, other elements that we've synthesized up to 109, and that hasn't been really documented. But these have been put in accelerators for an incredibly long time at a tremendous cost of electrical power. And, we essentially have a yield of 1 or 2 atoms of the substance. If you're talking about something much higher than that, like element 115, it's just inconceivable. You'd have to have this tremendous thing running at full power for decades to wind up with several atoms of a substance, if it can be done. And that's why I've always contended that element 115 has got to, or it must have been naturally created.
All right. I'm right on top of another break, and gee whiz, there's just not enough time to say goodbye, so I guess you'll have to stay there for a minute. Stand by. Both of you. That's known as the tricks of the trade. You're listening to the CBC VR Network. Right back. Area 51, and Bob Lazar and John Lear. They're my guests on our show. We're going back now to the phone, and you're both back on the air again. Yeah, I don't know how you did it. Again, it's an honor for me to be on the same program with Bob. I know that both couldn't do an interview with him. I don't know how you did it. It really is. Well, it is indeed an honor to have you here, Bob. It really is. If I might, let's expose you both to some more people. Wildcard Line 3, you're on the air, Coast to Coast AM with the group. Good morning.
Oh, yes. Boy, I'm really honored. This is my second time. I called earlier on the first-time caller line. You couldn't remember my third question, which had to do with Atlantis.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you. And thank you for the call back. John, that's right. Atlantis, yes, they probably, is based in fact for a lot of mythology. The one thing that I can't find any information on is where did the myth of the dragon come from? Was there really something? I mean, usually there's a basis in fact of most mythology. Something happened to make that, but I've always wondered where the dragon came from. All right, well, at least you addressed it. Thank you. Good morning. You're on the air, Coast to Coast AM with the group here.
Hi, Arizona.
Where are you calling from?
Arizona.
Arizona, all right.
Yeah, I wanted to know before I'm picking up off a kid on, so you're about ready to go out. But I want to know where I can get the tapes from. Copies of them.
All right. I'm sure that'll please them. John, why don't you go ahead and give out the address for the Tri-Dot Corporation, TRIDOT Corporation, and it's 1324. That's 1324 South Eastern. And it's Las Vegas, Nevada,